As the opioid crisis grips Tennessee, state leaders are taking big steps to fight it. Governor Bill Haslam signed 2 new bills today, and they focus on prevention, treatment, and law enforcement.
He did so in East Tennessee. 10 News reporter Stephanie Haynes joins us with more on that ceremony. Stephanie?
Robin and John, that's right. The new laws are part of Tennessee Together, the governor's anti-opioid initiative. A piece of that is the Navigator program. It connects at-risk people to advocates who get them to the treatment they need. Here's one of their stories.
It's what keeps me sober, honestly. When I see someone who is struggling, it's kind of backwards how it works. It just keeps me sober, and it makes my foundation that much stronger.
A little more than 4 years ago, Hope Johnson was struggling with addiction. She got help, and now it's her mission to pay it forward.
It's amazing that I am being used in this way, and it's proof to me that anyone could be used.
She's a navigator, one of 11 other advocates who will visit 30 emergency rooms across the state. They help connect at-risk people with the right addiction and mental health treatments. One of those hospitals is Blunt Memorial.
We have a lot of resources available in Tennessee, but exactly how to access those and the process for that can be complicated and complex. And to have someone who specializes in that is vital to success.
The navigators are charged by Tennessee mental health systems like Cherokee or Frontier. The program is part of Tennessee Together, Governor Bill Haslam's $30 million initiative to fight the grip of the opioid addiction on Tennessee through law enforcement, prevention, and treatment.
I would encourage us to keep looking at more treatment dollars. I love that a lot of this money is going to 11 what we call navigators across the state that help people and find the lowest cost or hopefully no cost alternatives for them to access treatment.
For Johnson, it's about making connections with those suffering.
These people just can't do it alone. I couldn't have done it alone, so we just have to lend that hand.
And Governor Haslam said although the Navigator program technically kicks in on July 1st, the Navigators have already started working. Robin and John.
That is encouraging. Stephanie Haynes on the story. Thank you. This comes as East Tennessee searches for a way to confront the opioid epidemic and reverse the trend. Knox County alone recorded 18 suspected overdose deaths in the month of June. Prosecutors say that raises the total to 149 in 2018. The grim toll is about half of the almost 300 deaths we saw in all of 2017. If you or someone that you know is struggling with addiction, we do have resources online right now at WBIR.com. There you can find treatment options, recovery centers, and contact information for the Tennessee Red Line.